In this growth of the superorganism, today we're on the edge of creating a global superorganism. And that will mean there will be no outside. There is no other. We will form a global community with a common set of beliefs, shared beliefs that are now spreading as we see around the internet. We can see this in a sense is that we will be a regulating intelligence for the planet, I'm sure, in future. And we will do what our brain does for our body, which is help create stability, coordination between the parts, and lead to a stronger Gaia, if you want, a stronger Earth system. The rise of living in a superorganism, because it's axiomatic that as we become more interdependent on each other, we become less competent as individuals. And in an ant colony, that means that only a few ants can reproduce, only a few can defend the colony, only a few can garden, others have other jobs they do, is very true in human society as well. And there is a profound paradox, really, in our understanding of evolutionary thought, because we know that the mechanism that created the Earth as we know it and all life is evolution by natural selection, which is a competitive process. It's a process whereby variation in a community and then the differential death and survival of those members brings about evolutionary change. So it's sort of a ruthless process, but paradoxically, it doesn't lead to a dog-eat-dog world or a survival of the fittest world. What it has led to is an immensely cooperative world where things have co-evolved. I mean, we live in a society, for heaven's sake, you know. Our bodies are miracles of cooperation and co-evolution. 10% of me isn't even me in that sense. It's bacteria and fungi and so forth that live on my skin and in my gut that I just couldn't survive without. So co-evolution is tremendously important, and when we understand that, I think we develop a better basis for a moral philosophy, really, of life, and a philosophy that gives us hope of a sustainable future. If we look at how life has been shaped by evolution and what it does, I think it's axiomatically true that information systems order matter, if you want. And DNA is an information system that has ordered the entire Earth. And it tends to order things, information systems tend to order things in the same sort of way. So the sort of order that represents my body is also represented in a weaker form in ant societies and ant colonies. And where you have individuals that cooperate to make this whole that is rather reminiscent in its function of a body, you have a superorganism. It's really a group of individuals that are knit so tightly together, they as a whole represent or resemble in some ways an organism. Ants do this, and the glue that holds ant colonies together is simply genetic relatedness. But the most astonishing thing really about us is that we have formed a superorganism as well. And so for us the glue is the division of labour as well as this civilization of ideas, common beliefs that people share. We started off 10,000 years ago as little villages, the very first settlements. In this growth of the superorganism, today we're on the edge of creating a global superorganism. And that will mean there will be no outside. There is no other. We will form a global community with a common set of beliefs, shared beliefs that are now spreading as we see around the internet. We can see this in the development of the revolutions in North Africa leading, we hope, to democracy in those regions. And it's tremendously important, this development, for the future of life on Earth, because for the first time I think this global superorganism, this global intelligence, will be able to send a single strong and clear signal to the Earth. And what that means in a sense is that we will be a regulating intelligence for the planet, I'm sure, in future. And we will do what our brain does for our body, which is help create stability, coordination between the parts, and lead to a stronger Gaia, if you want, a stronger Earth system. The rise of a global intelligence doesn't necessarily mean the rise of a global government. Ant colonies coordinate themselves without a ruling caste. There's no blueprint for the organisation of the ant colony. There are ways we can organise ourselves without establishing a top-down government. But having said that, there are real implications for individuals living in a superorganism, because it's axiomatic that as we become more interdependent on each other, we become less competent as individuals. And in an ant colony, that means that only a few ants can reproduce, only a few can defend the colony, only a few can garden, others have other jobs they do, is very true in human society as well. And it's very interesting that over the last 10,000 years, our brains have lost about 10% of their mass relative to our bodies. So, one of the golden rules really of superorganisms is that as the superorganism gets ever more competent as a whole, the individuals within it become less competent. And that's something we need to watch as we go forward. As we become ever more closely interconnected, conditions in one part of the superorganism have immediate impacts upon conditions in other parts. And poverty leads to short-term thinking, which leads to people taking today whatever they can get, even if it's at great expense for tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow's often reflects the common fate of humanity. So we'll see wherever there's poverty, there'll be environmental degradation, there'll be rapidly growing human populations because women won't be able to control their reproductive potential. And that has a very damaging impact on the system as a whole. So for me, it's absolutely imperative as we move forward that we get some more equal distribution of resources and give people hope, at least, for a comfortable quality of life. And as we do that, if we rise to that challenge, we will slow deforestation. We shall see our population stabilise at closer to 8 million than 9 or 10 million as currently projected. And we will see the beginnings of an end of conflict, because people again will tend to fight where they are desperate. It won't eradicate all conflict, of course, but it will help to lead to a more equal world. And I think that our future is a common one, and it's intolerable, it is unsustainable to have a common future where great parts of our common superorganism are struggling for the basics.